So without further ado, the, the person that means so much to me in this world, and I love you, Miss Hannah.
How are y'all tonight? This is a huge crowd, a crowd that's much different than the crowd that I'm used to. Usually it's 23 second graders, but tonight it's a little different. So I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. I'm Hannah, and I'm a recovering alcoholic who's been saved by the grace of Jesus Christ. And I'm here tonight to share my testimony with you all. Before I do that, let me give you a little backstory. Let me give you some insight on what my childhood was like. I had two amazing parents. They worked hard. They provided for my brother and I. We were a very close family. My parents would do anything and everything they could for my brother and myself. All that being said, there was absolutely no childhood trauma, nothing in my childhood that would lead to the things that happened. But it was later in life when alcohol took control and ruled every corner of my life. It wasn't just something that I used to take the edge off. It became something that I lived for. It became an obsession. The obsession was constant. I'd wake up thinking about when I could have my next drink. I'd plan my days around drinking. I hid it from others as best I could, but on the inside I was falling apart. When I was younger, at about age 15 is when I started partying and going out and things like that. And I was always the life of the party. I was always that girl that had to finish the entire bottle. It's like a game, be the last man standing. That was me. I can't count the number of times I'd black out and wake up with absolutely no memory of what had gone on the night before. So looking back now, I can see that alcohol was and always will be a problem for me. Fast forward to 2009, I met my now ex-husband. During that relationship, there was emotional, mental, and even sexual abuse. And as a result, I began drinking more frequently in order to cope with the abuse. In 2015, we had our son, Easton. The day that I gave birth to him was the happiest day of my life. And I foolishly thought that things would get better, but they didn't. They only got worse. We were divorced by the time Easton was 3 years old. I saw myself as a complete failure. My marriage had failed, and now my son has to live with divorced parents. The drinking worsened. I began drinking daily. First, it was just a drink or two. Then it was a pint. Then it was a fifth per night. And eventually, I was drinking up to a half gallon of hard liquor every 2 to 3 days. Along with the drinking, I was also abusing prescription Xanax. A 90-day supply would sometimes last a week or less. One day, after taking Xanax all day, I drove home with my child in the vehicle. I apparently felt like I was about to black out, so I had enough sense to pull over and stop the car. The cops and the fire department were called. My parents were called to come get me. And I didn't find out about any of these events until the next morning when my mother woke me up and told me all about it. And you would think that this would have been a wake-up call, but it wasn't. It wasn't even close. Shortly after this, I was arrested for driving under the influence. And as a result of this, my ex-husband was awarded temporary emergency custody of our son. If I remember correctly, I was about 3 times over the legal limit. I had to pay hundreds of dollars in fines, had to pay for an interlock device to be installed in my vehicle, and the cost of my insurance skyrocketed. The night of my arrest was my mom's birthday. Birthdays are supposed to be happy, but instead I left my mom worrying and wondering where I was, if I was hurt, or if I was even still alive. I'll never forget that night, and I don't ever want to relive that night. The flashing lights, the coldness of the handcuffs, the loneliness of the jail cell, and the shame of having to call someone for help. I felt like my life was crumbling piece by piece, and I couldn't stop it. That was the beginning of nearly losing everything that ever mattered to me. During this time, I was an educator. I taught second grade here in Jonesboro. At one point, I was someone who inspired young minds and who had a sense of purpose. But as the addiction deepened, that sense of purpose vanished. I started showing up to work late, calling in sick, losing focus, until eventually I was caught drinking in the classroom. There was an investigation in which enough probable cause was found for my teaching license to be placed on a probationary status. I resigned from that position. It was one of the first major losses that told me this was much more than just drinking too much. This was something that had complete control over me and my life. The hardest part of all of this was the damage that I did to my family. I nearly lost custody of my child. The thought of not being able to raise him, to love him, to protect him broke me. My family couldn't trust me anymore. They stopped believing my apologies, and honestly, I'd stopped believing them too. I hated who I'd become, not just because of what I'd done, but because I had no idea how to stop it. After resigning from my teaching position, I entered a 30-day inpatient rehab facility in Florida. Rehab gave me a glimpse of what life would be like if I were sober. But was it enough to help me stay sober? It wasn't. It didn't stick. And I ended up relapsing shortly after coming home. That relapse felt worse than anything before because this time I knew exactly what I was throwing away. It wasn't just about drinking anymore. It was about despair. And I started to believe that I was beyond saving. Then one night something happened. I'd been attending AA meetings on and off again in my hometown. And at one particular meeting, a man shared something that really stuck with me. He asked me, "Have you ever actually asked God to take away the obsession?" I thought about it. I hadn't really. Not really. I hadn't asked him. And I didn't know if I believed he would or if he even cared. I'd almost given up on him. But something inside of me said, "Don't give up on me." That night I prayed. It was clumsy and it was raw. I had no idea what to say, but I just told him that I needed help. I asked God to take away my obsession with alcohol. I didn't know what to expect or if I should expect anything at all, but slowly things began to change. I kept praying, even on the days when I didn't feel anything at all. Then one day something hit me. I'd gone an entire day without craving or even thinking about alcohol. The thoughts that once consumed me were gone. And I can't explain it in any other way except to say that God heard me. It wasn't just the cravings that left, though. It was the weight on my chest and my shoulders. That constant shame, anxiety, and fear that had lived in me for so long, it lifted. God met me where I was at and for the first time, I felt peace. Not the kind of peace that comes in a quiet room or from having a good day, but the kind of peace that goes deep into your bones. I know now that what I was feeling was the presence of Jesus Christ. And that was the moment that I knew this wasn't just about recovery, it was about redemption. I didn't just need sobriety, I needed a Savior. I began pursuing Jesus the way I'd once pursued alcohol, with desperation and hunger. I was invited to attend a Sunday morning service here at the Rock. Now, at first, I was scared to go. I thought everyone would see right through me, that they would judge me or I'd be looked down upon. But instead, I found grace. I found people who had their own stories, people who weren't perfect, but who knew the one who is. My son and I became members of the church, and then we both got baptized. It was a physical symbol of the spiritual death and resurrection I had already experienced. It didn't fix everything overnight. Recovery is still work. It's not something that you graduate from or something that you can say you've completed. It's a lifelong process. It's something that you have to work on daily in order to be the person that God made you to be. There are days when I feel weak, unworthy, or tempted, but now I know where to go with those feelings, to Jesus. One verse that has carried me through all of this is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. I acknowledged God. I didn't give up on him, and he has made my path straight. Today, I'm almost 5.5 years sober. By the grace of God. I'm strengthening my relationship with God. I'm rebuilding relationships and trust with my family. I'm building a happy and healthy relationship with the man who invited me to a Sunday morning service here. God is the foundation of that relationship, which is something I'd never had before. His faith never wavers, and he's helped me see that my past is not something to be ashamed of. The story of my past, my testimony, is a gift to pass along to others who may be facing similar battles. Now I've become the mother that my son needs me to be, and the mother that God intended for me to be, and I'm the person who my family and friends need me to be. My teaching license is no longer on a probationary status, and I am once again teaching second grade. Once again, I'm the teacher who inspires young minds and who has a purpose in life. But most importantly, I'm walking in freedom because Jesus changed everything. I think I went a little bit fast, but I'm almost done. If you're struggling with addiction, shame, or if you're close to giving up on God, please open your hearts, open your hands, open your eyelids, and listen for that voice saying, "Don't give up on me." You may feel hopeless right now, but the same God who saved me can save you too. You don't have to do this on your own, and he's not waiting for you to get it together. He's ready to meet you right where you are, as long as you don't give up on him.